Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Holistic Soul Podcast and to the weekly horoscope for December 2025 through January 4th, 2026. So welcome to the final days of 2025 and the very beginning of a new year. So the energy this week is like a bridge. We are between years, between identities, between inner chapters of our lives. And the astrology reflects that liminal feeling of standing in a doorway. We have one foot in the past. We have one foot like hovering towards the future and asking you, what are you taking with you? And what are you finally ready to leave behind? Funny story, last night I saw a post on Instagram saying the number one song on your 10th birthday predicts your 2026. Now, do I think these things are fun and slightly ridiculous to believe? Absolutely, yes. Did I look it up anyways? You bet I did. And so I did a quick Google search for the number one song on October 21st, 1992, and I got End of the Road by Boyz II Men. Love that song, but man, did I laugh. Because, well, damn, it really hit home for what I'm going through right now. And also, my best friend messaged me on Instagram and said, I got Jump by Crisscross. Why couldn't I have gotten something like that? But I'm going to use that inspiration of this Boyz II Men End of the Road song. And if you haven't heard it, please listen, because it's such a great song. I mean, I grew up, Boyz II Men are just like, it's just nostalgic for me, which kind of, again, goes into this week with our full moon in Cancer. But all joking aside, there's something like very fitting about that song because this week is really about endings, not dramatic endings, not forced endings, but conscious closures. The kind where you finally stop dragging these old stories, these old roles, these old emotional patterns into the future just because they are familiar. And that's where the astrology comes in this week. This week really invites you to gently and intentionally choose what you are ready to leave behind. And it's really supported by the full moon in Cancer this week, which is a lunation that doesn't say you have to cut things off harshly, but to release them with care, with honesty, and emotional maturity. So let's talk about what is happening this week and how you can work with this to make your way into the new year. So the first thing that's happening this week is Mercury is entering the sign of Capricorn. And as Mercury shifts into Capricorn, our mind, because Mercury rules the mind, becomes a little bit more deliberate. There's a noticeable shift and change in the tone of your thoughts. They slow down. Your conversations feel heavier, not in a burdensome way, but in a meaningful way, because your words now really carry consequences. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and so whenever Mercury is in a Saturn-ruled sign, there's less interest in just talking to talk, and it's more the desire to speak with intention. So Mercury in Capricorn asks us to think in terms of longevity. Well, we already have the Sun in Capricorn, Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn, and now Mercury's joining the club. So a heavy dose of this Capricorn energy as we navigate this week ahead is really asking us what will still matter 6 months from now, a year from now, right? We are thinking in long-term goals, long-term vision, long-term plans, because Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, wants something to be sustainable long-term. It's not just quick and easy. Also, what conversations actually support where you're going? What agreements, what boundaries? Let's say that again, boundaries, because Saturn is the planet that rules boundaries. And Capricorn very much loves boundaries, loves a plan. So what agreements, what boundaries, what decisions really need some clarity right now? Or some emphasis in what you're communicating to other people. So this is really powerful planning energy for 2026. Capricorn isn't rushing. It's really about building something carefully, brick by brick. There's also a moment to notice where your words have been overextended, where you've said yes when you really meant no. Hello, boundaries, right? Or stayed silent when you really wanted the truth to be spoken. So under this transit, integrity becomes the guiding principle in everything that you say and think and ultimately do, because, we also have Mars in Capricorn. So this authority isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's steady. It doesn't demand attention. It's about earning it. So ask yourself during this transit, especially during this week, is what am I building next? And do my thoughts, my words, and my conversations support that structure? Because Capricorn's all about structure. It's the scaffolding of a building. And in the body, Capricorn rules our bones and our teeth, right? Which gives our physical body structure. So when we think about this Capricorn stellium, which a stellium is a group of planets in one sign, and so we have a Capricorn stellium going on right now, it's all about the structure, the foundation for your year ahead. What are you building? And do my thoughts, words, and conversations, and with Mars there and Venus there, I'd say values and actions. Do they support that structure? Okay, the next big thing we have going on this week is Chiron, which Chiron is an asteroid known as, one of its archetypes is the wounded healer. That's just one of the 3 archetypes of Chiron. But Chiron is stationing direct in the sign of Aries. So this is a really quiet but really potent shift. So Chiron has been retrograde since July. And many of us over these past many months have been pulled back into old wounds around identity. The places where we learned it wasn't safe to be bold, it wasn't safe to be seen, or to be fully ourselves. So you probably had a lot of old memories, old insecurities, old questions around who am I allowed to be resurfaced during that time. As Chiron turns direct, which is happening on January 2nd, the healing begins to move forward again, right? So we're not skipping steps or pretending the pain didn't happen. How you work with Chiron is you acknowledge and you integrate the wound and you honor the journey, right? Healing says, I survived this, I'm still here, right? Think about it when we think about 2025, like I survived 2025. I'm still here and I'm ready for what's next. So this phase of Chiron direct in Aries is really asking you to reflect on where did you learn to shrink yourself in order to stay safe, right? Where self-doubt still might be kind of whispering to you louder than your self-trust, and how your wounds have shaped your courage, not erased it. So because Aries is like this warrior energy and very concerned about self, it's the first sign of the zodiac, it's the ruler of the first house. So it's really about the inner fire, the inner courage. And so Chiron in Aries reminds us that bravery doesn't mean fearlessness. It means that I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing myself even when I'm scared to. It means reclaiming your right to take up space. Not perfectly, not loudly, but authentically. It's really about showing up in the most authentic way. You don't need to become somebody new. I know that this time of year, new year, new me. No, you don't need to be somebody new. You just need to stop abandoning who you already are. Please repeat that. You do not need to become someone new. You are whole as you are, okay? You just need to stop abandoning yourself. Start choosing yourself. Start putting yourself first. You know, people with the sign of Aries, they get the stereotype of being selfish. Well, anyone who has Aries placements in their birth chart, their soul said, hey, you know what, in this lifetime, you should probably choose you more often, right? And collectively, that's kind of the energy of Chiron and Aries, is like, your healing journey really asks you to choose yourself sometimes. And it doesn't mean you don't think about the other person, because that's the opposite side of Aries is Libra. Libra is all about other people. It's about the balance point in between. In order for me to show up authentically in any relationship I have, at some point I've got to choose to heal and love and be brave for myself, right? So that I can show up in a more balanced, reciprocal relationship. Hello, Libra, that's what they desire. And so it's that middle ground between the two signs. So both individually and collectively, we're really feeling those old wounds or insecurities or questions come up. Again, who am I allowed to be? It's really beautiful. Like I love Chiron, love Chiron. I'll do a podcast episode on Chiron just because he's a really potent energy in everyone's chart. Okay, so then the final thing we have going on, and save the best for last, is the full moon in Cancer on January 3rd. So at the end of this week, we're moving into this full moon in Cancer, and it's a very potent full moon because it's conjunct Jupiter. And so whatever Jupiter touches, it amplifies. So we're really focused on feeling everything under this full moon in Cancer, amplifying everything we feel, everything we need, and everything we're ready to release. Emotions arise under this full moon, not to overwhelm you, but to tell you the truth, both loudly and clearly, right? You're going to feel more with this full moon in Cancer because Cancer is a water sign, and water energy is about intuition. It's about feeling. It's about the flow of emotions in the body. And whenever anything's, influenced by Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So in Cancer, the expansion happens through the heart, through the emotions. Feelings become bigger, more honest, and harder to ignore, but also very meaningful and extremely healing. So Cancer governs our emotional roots, our home, our family, our chosen family, our sense of belonging, and the ways in which we seek emotional safety and comfort. So with Jupiter and this full moon in Cancer, it illuminates not only where we feel genuinely supportive, but also where we may have been overgiving, caretaking, or emotionally stretching ourselves too thin in the name of love or loyalty. So feelings that have been quietly waiting for your acknowledgement might finally rise to the surface. These feelings could be of nostalgia, because that's very much a Cancerian thing. Our origin, our childhood. Cancer rules the moon. So the moon is very active when we're younger. It's more important than our sun sign, especially up until the age of 9. It also might bring up feelings of grief, some tenderness, some longing. Even joy can really swell unexpectedly during this full moon. Memories may resurface. Old emotional patterns may become really impossible to ignore. So this full moon says pay attention and expand our awareness to our emotional world. So some things to ask during this full moon in Cancer is, where do I feel held without effort, without performance or explanation? Where am I still overextending myself to feel secure or needed? Ooh, that's a good one. What emotional pattern is ready to be released before this new year begins? I know I'm really going to feel into that one. Cancer teaches us that sensitivity is not a weakness. It's wisdom, it's strength. To be vulnerable is much stronger than to build a wall. The opposite sign of Cancer is Capricorn. Capricorn builds those structures, and sometimes the shadow side of Capricorn energy is we put up these really big walls, these really big boundaries that we can't penetrate. Others aren't allowed to penetrate. So with Cancer, it's saying, hey, guess what? It's actually a strength to be vulnerable, to feel and to express how you feel. And then Jupiter reminds us that emotional honesty is necessary for growth. Sometimes when I'm working with clients and we're talking about boundaries, I like to use the visualization of a fence. So if we think about an over-boundaried person, it's this really high brick wall with maybe some like electrical fencing along the top, like nobody's getting through into your heart, right? And we can't penetrate that. And that is a shadow side. It's usually rooted in fear of being hurt. Well, I say, well, what about we take down this very big brick wall and we put up a chain link fence? Okay, because to me, that's the perfect boundary, because there's a structure there that creates a distinct line of please do not cross here, but it's chain link, so there's energy moving in and out of the fence, right? And so things are allowed to come in and they go out. There's movement, but there's still a container. And to me, that's the visualization I have for a healthy boundary. I mean, I'm no psychiatrist or counselor, but that's kind of what I like to kind of tell people is like allow for movement of feelings, movement of energy, but still have that container, that barrier that protects you from, overgiving or overextending yourself. So really with this full moon in Cancer, it's about this powerful release, not coming from pushing forward or being strong, right? Because I'm so strong, like I don't want to show my emotions or show my vulnerability. Like that's actually the opposite. It comes from allowing yourself to feel what you've been carrying and trusting that you're making the space for those feelings to show you about what you need to feel nourished in order to grow and close the year softly and with care, and making more space for the year ahead. So just a kind of final reflection on these three major things happening this week. This week is not about rushing into 2026. It's about choosing what doesn't come with you, right? It's about choosing what doesn't come with you. With Mercury helping you think clearly, Chiron helping you heal, and feel brave, and Cancer full moon helping you release emotionally and knowing that you're supported in the ending this year. You're ending this year with intention, not avoidance. And so maybe that is the real end of the road, to tie it back together to my song that I got. It's not an actual ending, but a turning point. Ooh, gosh, I feel that. I definitely feel that for 2026. And as I've been putting together a worksheet for planning your year ahead with astrology that I'm offering in January, a workshop, it really was apparent that 2026 is this really important cosmic shift, right? There's a big shift in our storylines. So if you're interested, I want to share the invitation. If you want to approach 2026 with more clarity, more intention, I'm hosting a workshop called Planning Your Year Ahead with Astrology, and we'll explore the major astrological themes, turning points of 2026, and really translate them into practical guidance for your goals, for your relationships, and for your overall well-being. So talking about when it's right to initiate things, to refine, to rest. I love putting it into practical steps for you. So this is happening Thursday, January 8th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. I'm actually doing this in person at Buffalo and Sparrow Collective in Lakewood, Colorado, where I live, or virtually. It's $33 and you don't have to have any prior astrology knowledge. Just come with an open mind and curiosity of how to plan more intentionally for the year ahead. So you'll find the details in the show notes, and I would love to have you there. So with that, we'll close out. That's this bridge week that we have this week, and I am wishing you all a beautiful and very healing Happy New Year.